Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we are going to be taking a look at SharpLink Gaming SBET stock, a stock which we are seeing down by 3.21% in the Friday trading day, and actually down by a further 1.7% I believe in the after hours. The 5-day over here not looking too great either, down in excess of 18.5%. And look at the month trend, right? We are now seeing this one falling by 32%. Considering the trend over the past 6 months, where we've seen the stock go from $3 to highs, which essentially equate to a 2,250% rise, the question is, where do we go next? Well, I'll be giving you all of my personal thoughts and opinions on this topic over the course of this video. If it sounds good, please do make sure to leave a like on it and subscribe, it would help me a lot. But as always, remember, this is not financial advice, and I am not a financial advisor. But yeah, let's jump straight into this one. And the first thing that I want to acknowledge is that despite the drop that we have recently seen, stock is still up by 350% since literally the beginning of May, which in itself is still very impressive. Now the question is though, are we able to find a level of support? That's the main objective for any point of the next week or so, right? Essentially establishing a new level of support. Now it's quite interesting because on the Friday session, despite ultimately finishing red, we were able to see a little bit of an increase from these lows that we saw, right? We went up ever so slightly. We saw this bounce off of essentially 14.15, a level which we have seen as a support before here, right? If this holds up, that could be a very interesting level to watch out for. But considering the fact that we've dropped even further in the after hours, I think it's more likely than not that we're actually going much lower than that. Next levels to watch out for, honestly, they're going to be something like 12.57. Beyond that, it could be something like 12.03. Now, actually, I think 12.03 even down into the potentially the 11.70s, right? So about $12 to 11.75 is a very solid range of support for this stock. We've seen supports twice at least, right? Once here and once here. That would not be the worst level to hold up. At the same time, if we see this momentum start to slow into the next week or so, it's ever so possible, it's still possible I should say, that we could find and establish a new level of support. But if I had to guess personally, if I had to give my opinions, I would say it's more likely than not that we see this one continue to drop. If that does happen, like I say, we're looking for those levels which would be significantly lower than where we currently are, which would represent better buying opportunities later into the future. I think despite the potential being here mid to long term, right now the stock is in a decline. If we are able to see some consolidation into the next few days, perhaps my opinions will change, but I will give you my updated opinions as we do go through the next week or so. Yeah, very interesting stock to watch. It's about seeing if these levels hold up. Honestly, I don't think they will, which would represent the potential to drop to the 11.70s or something like that. Time will tell, guys. Just my personal opinions on it, but let me know yours in the comments. Thank you. See you again. Hey guys, welcome back. Today we're going to be talking all things MicroStrategy, talking about the S&P 500 news and also looking at the share price over the last couple of days, whilst giving you my personal thoughts and opinions on everything and looking forwards into the next week or so. If it sounds like a good video, guys, please make sure to leave a like and subscribe. It would help me out a lot because we have a lot to discuss in today's update. Again, remember, I am not a financial advisor and this is not financial advice. But yeah, over the past month or so, we've seen this stock ultimately fallen from the highs to the lows, down by 18% and overall down by 12.4%. The past 6 months over here still relatively positive. From the lows to the highs, we are up by 85 and overall still up by 10%. But with a 5-day chart being relatively flat and the past day being green, the question is, what do we see come next with MicroStrategy stock? Well, we've got a lot to speak about, as you will probably know, and we might as well jump in first by speaking about the S&P 500. So, Strategy, MSTR stock, snubbed by S&P 500 as a secret committee and blamed for exclusion. So Strategy was excluded from the S&P 500 inclusion despite meeting the criteria, with analysts blaming secret committee decision-making process. So yeah, what we're seeing here is essentially Strategy was excluded from the S&P 500 despite meeting all of the eligibility criteria. That caused the stock to drop by 2.9% after hours. Bloomberg analyst Eric I'm not even going to try and pronounce that, blamed a secret committee for the rejection decision. Robinhood was surprisingly added to the S&P 500 instead, boosting its stock by 7% after market close. MSTR stock fell below the 330 level, raising concerns that it could revisit 300 as a support. The exclusion represents a setback for the largest corporate Bitcoin holder and its institutional recognition. So yeah, you can see the information here. Strategy missed a shot at the S&P 500 inclusion on Friday, despite the fact they met all the criteria. The rejection sent the stock tumbling by 2.9% in after hours, which erased the Friday gains, pushing shares below the 330 mark. Very interesting to see, and again, that is a good point. You know, with everything being said, where do we go from here? Is it likely that we're going to drop even lower? Well, if I was to give you my personal opinions, right, despite the general trend in the 5 days being relatively good, despite the trend in the last day being very good, the question is all going to depend on what happens when markets open back up. This is going to be very, very crucial to look out for, because there is that very strong argument to be made. You know, where are our next levels of support from here? Well, we've got levels of support that we could look to at maybe 318. That's not impossible. We've seen those levels work as a support and a resistance, most recently as a support back here, right? So is there a possibility that we could see that? Of course there is. However, is that likely, right? If we see that hold up, I think it shows a genuine sign of relative strength here. If we don't see that hold up, I think there is that possibility that we drop even lower. If we do, where are we looking to go from there? Well, I think you're looking quite a bit lower, right? Again, you've got those levels at about 318, as I mentioned, but past that, you're looking way back to a while ago to find a relevant support. You could make an argument for 307, 36, something like that, maybe even 300 on the nose, as some analysts do think. So, what comes next in my opinion, or what would I be looking for? Honestly, it's really simple, right? And I think it's all going to depend on what happens on the first couple of days when markets open in the next week. If we see some stability here, not necessarily that concerning. Again, there is still that potential that we find a support above 320, that we find a support above 318. That would not be that bad, all things considered. But if we do begin to drop, and drop significantly into the beginning of next week, then we're looking at a period of time where we could see this stock drop a bit lower. So what's my opinions, right? Would I be rushing in for those shares with a 2 or 3% discount that we saw in the after hours, if we don't, of course, see any more massive fluctuation on the pre-market sessions? Honestly, I wouldn't, right? I wouldn't be chasing this one right now. I think there is a lot of potential here mid to long term, but I wouldn't be chasing these day-to-day price movements particularly. I think this, for me, if I was looking to get into this one, in my opinion, again, I'm not telling you what to do, just my opinion, I'd see this as more of a long-term play. In that event, right, does it make sense to necessarily chase these short-term highs for the potential of, even more uptrend, or do you have to weigh up the odds, right? If we begin to drop significantly, 318 is going to be the first level to watch out for. Then you're looking at 300, possibly lower than that. Now would be a very volatile time to get into this. Some people are into that. If that's, of course, what you like, then that's up to you. For me, though, personally, I think this moment in time is a bit too risky, and I personally wouldn't be interested, right? But yeah, there's every possibility that we see this one drop lower. Ultimately, levels at 318, as I mentioned, are the levels that we're looking for as our first support. But of course, time will tell. We'll see what happens. Thank you for your time, guys. Hope you enjoyed the short video. If you did, make sure to leave a like and subscribe, and I hope I'll see you again soon. Goodbye. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Let's take a brief look at Smci stock, a stock which we are now seeing find a little bit of stability. On the Friday session, we have seen this one hit levels at 40.41, and over the past 5 days, we're only seeing this one drop by 5%. Now, where things get really interesting is when you look from the 2nd of September, the results are actually a lot less bad. From the lows that we've seen in that day to the end of Friday, we're actually up by 1%. And come over to the chart over here, and you're going to be now seeing this one come to a key level. We've seen lows roughly at 30.74, levels that we have somewhat bounced off of in the past. The question is, what do we see this time, and is the trend going to be different, right? Do we now have that potential to move up after such a steep decline? Well, over the course of this video, I'll be giving you my personal thoughts and opinions, so if it does sound good, please do make sure to leave a like and subscribe. At the same time, also remember I am not a financial advisor, and this is not financial advice. Now, with that being said, yeah, let's jump straight into this one. Now, this stock over the past couple of months has seen, well, quite the trend, really. 6 months over here, we've seen this one still up by 9%. From the middle of May to the highs, we saw this one up ultimately over 80%. And in the past year to date, you've seen that trend, right? The past month, however, not looking so good, down by 13%. We're just seeing constant drops. Now, as I mentioned a second ago, where things become interesting is when we zoom out and actually acknowledge we're now coming to a level that we've bounced off of in the past. Now, this is going to be one of the most important, in my opinion, weeks for this stock that we have seen in some time. Because if we're able to hold on to this, like we were at points in the past, right? You know, we could be looking at a little bit of a bounce. We could be looking to go higher. We could be looking to potentially even retest levels that we have recently seen. At the same time, if we don't hold on to these, we don't really have any supports for quite a while below this. So my opinion is very simple. We're going to need to hold on to these levels, right? At the very lowest, 39.10 is fine. A little bit better would be something like what we're seeing right now at 39.49, as we saw at the lows, potentially even into the 39.80s. But this is absolutely a range to watch. I'm going to call it $39.20 all the way up to about $41, $42, right? This is a key level of support, or historically has been for the stock, and this is going to matter a lot going into the next week. A break above this channel would be a significant move. You know, that would potentially signify more to come. But a drop below this channel, I think, would be very detrimental. I think that would take us to levels at the very least in the $38 range, if not significantly lower than that. If we're not able to hold 38 from there, I think 36 is absolutely possible. From there, potentially even going down into 32s, 33 range, right? Which would still signify a significant drop. So my opinion overall on this one, guys, I think it's going to be very important to watch what happens this week. Do I think there's a potential for a bounce? I think it's absolutely possible, and all you've got to do is look into the trend that we've seen in the last, day or two, or even the past week, I should say. From really the Tuesday, Wednesday period of time, we have seen this one really start to level out. We are now seeing what you could call, to a degree, some consolidation. If we're able to see this hold up, if we're able to see a break to the upside, we could be looking for that trend to change. But again, this is going to be, for me at least, a period where I am sitting and watching. I personally wouldn't be buying at these levels. That's just my opinion. Now again, there is an argument to be made that it could be an interesting level to buy at. Just depends on what your risk tolerance is, right? It doesn't personally work out for me at this stage. Again, maybe give it 2-3 days, obviously when the trading week starts. If we see this one move up higher from here, that could be a very interesting point to look for, or if we're able to see these levels hold up. But again, I personally want that absolute confirmation, because if we don't see that, I think we are going a bit lower. So, on the upside then, other levels to watch out for, I think we're looking for levels really above $42. We're looking for levels above $43. They are the two to watch out for. First level of resistance that we might hit though, 41.30, 41.35. Levels that we have seen as supports, here and also back here as well. If we see that, or if we see a break above that, that could signify a trend change. Again, we've had difficulty doing that in the last couple of days, as you can see here. Very important level to watch out for the upside. I think we're now in a channel where the downside potential is becoming very tight to at least have a positive outlook on this stock. And the upside potential, depending on how you could see it, there could be a lot, right? But it is obviously a risky play. Depends what your risk tolerance is. Some people may see this as a great opportunity right now. For me personally, I don't. I think I'd need to wait a few days to see if we actually see this upwards momentum before I was comfortable. Just my opinion. Thank you for your time, guys, and I hope I'll see you again soon. Goodbye. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Let's have a look at Bmnr stock, a stock which is really now coming to a very interesting level. Unfortunately, we've lost a lot of the gains that we have seen, but now we're finding a little bit of a support arguably, and this is a very notable moment because this is also a level that has historically been a support many a time too. Is the trend about to change here, or are we simply going to see this one break and go even lower? Well, nobody can say for sure, but over the course of this video, I'll be giving you my personal thoughts and opinions based on what what we are seeing. If it sounds good, please do make sure to leave a like and subscribe, I would appreciate it. But at the same time, remember, I am not a financial advisor, and this is not financial advice. But yeah, let's jump straight in. So, first I want to come over here and simply acknowledge the general trend. The past 6 months over here has been really impressive. Since about June into mid-July, we've seen this one just absolutely run, up over 2,800%, right? That's quite an impressive gain. Now, even considering the recent drop, we are seeing this one up by in excess of 850% since the middle of June. That is a short period of time to see so much, essentially, of a monumental rise. But the question is then, where do we go from here? Well, honestly, I think despite what many people may think, this stock is actually holding up relatively well, right? We have found an initial support quite some time ago. This was in the $30 range, which all being considered is still impressive. Again, from June to even the lows that we have seen, still up 612%. That's not a common occurrence. I think the reason why a lot of people are kind of mad is because they bought at much higher levels. However, again, you've got to be realistic, right? You've got to consider that this stock is still up huge. And the question is, are we going to see these levels of support hold? Well, my opinions are actually very simple for this week. Never mind any particular upside trends, right? We're going to highlight some briefly, but I think the levels to watch out for this week are definitely on the downside. But again, I like to be very impartial, right? I'm not here to make your minds up. I'm simply here to highlight the levels on both ends that I'm looking for, and then you guys can go on to make your own opinions, right? But if I was to look for some upside here, very, very simple. I'm looking for levels at 43.80. I'm looking for levels at 44.50. I'm looking for levels potentially at 45.10, 45.15. Those, though, are going to be a bit more ambitious, right? What's more likely is the need to hold this 50, I should say, this 42.50, 42.47 as a potential resistance. Break above that and things get very interesting. Now, the thing is, this is down 0.36% on the Friday session. Not that bad at all. Could you make an argument that the trend is slowing? Yes. And to be honest, guys, this is kind of what I actually said was going to play out, right? I think with this one, I called it relatively well. I said if we weren't able to hold on to these levels at, 46, 47, I think it was even a bit higher than that, right? Then we would very likely see this one drop to levels in the 40 range. Now it's as simple as saying if this one actually holds up, because I'm not going to lie, guys, I'm not necessarily convinced yet, and in my head there's still every possibility that we could go back down to the 30s, right? And I know a lot of people won't like to hear that, but you've got to be aware, it is a possibility. Now, what's going to need to happen to see this one essentially not do that? Well, it's actually very simple. Levels of support need to hold up. Levels at 39.80, they're going to be very important. That's been a support many times in the past. We've seen it most recently here, of course. We've also seen it here. We've also seen it here. And we've seen it here too, right? And here as well. I could go back on many times. This is the level that we bounce off of a lot. However, it has had some historical weaknesses. And ultimately, after this period of time, we did break to the downside. It could be a very interesting time to take a short-term swing trade. But again, do I have that confidence yet to say I would be interested in this one right now? I personally don't, right? Do I see potential here? Yes. And if we are able to hold on to these levels, I think that's a massive sign of strength. Do bear in mind, like I say, and I must highlight this is a stock up, over 400-500%. If we can hold on to 39.99, 40, some of these key levels that I've highlighted, things are good. Things are great, right? But I'd need maybe an extra day, a couple of days to actually confirm that trend before I was 100% confident. In my mind, there is still a possibility, I'm not going to lie, that we could break to the downside. And I think if we do break below these levels, which are a bit lower, maybe 39.20, maybe 38, right? If we break below that, every possibility that we go into 30. I think so. But it's about seeing if this crucial level holds up. That is as basic as it is for this upcoming week, but I'll give you more thoughts on that as we go along. Thank you for your time, guys. Hope you enjoyed this short video. If you did, make sure to give it a like and subscribe, and I do hope I'll see you again soon. Goodbye. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be looking at Neostock, a company which is down by 3% on Friday, and in the past 5 days is down by about 7.5%. The question is, what happens from here, right? Where do we go next? Over the course of this video, I'll be giving you my personal thoughts and opinions. If it sounds good, please do make sure to leave a like on it and subscribe. But as always, remember, I am not a financial advisor, and this is not financial advice. Yeah, with that being said though, let's jump straight in. Now, an important thing to acknowledge is the trend in the past month or so with NEO. From the lows to the highs, we've seen this one up by 50%. From the overall start of the 30-day period to now, we're still up about 29. So things are not looking bad at all. In the past 6 months or so, you can see the chart here, really since about July, we have seen this one go up big. 78% to where we are now, and over 80% to the highs which we have recently seen. So the question is, what actually comes next? Well, for this, we're going to come over here and look at the more technical chart. Now, first, I want to acknowledge a few things that we're seeing on NEO stock, right? We have unfortunately broken below the 610 mark, which I wanted to see hold. Previously, we saw NEO stock, yes, slightly moving lower, ultimately initially holding at 610, but now we've gone below that. Now, that was a level that we've obviously seen as this previous low. I wanted to remain above it, but not necessarily the end of the world. The next thing that we're looking for here at this level is to simply establish a support. That is as basic as it is. We're still up big here. We want to see this one establish a support. Ideally, we want to have that happen above these marks at 685, 686. That was a previous level where we have found to a degree some support in the past, right? If we don't hit that, we could be dropping as low as 566, or maybe even down to 553, as we have found a support there in the past. So yeah, these levels at, let's say, we're going to call it 594, I may have said 6 a moment ago, if they can hold, that could be very interesting, right? That's kind of where we are at the moment. If we see this hold, and there's every possibility of that, because we did find a brief support at these levels in the Friday session, both in the late part of the day and actually the early part too. See those hold, and we could be in a position where we could see this one run again. Then we'd be looking to hold on to levels at 608, 610, something like that. But that would obviously require this one to essentially remain still and see some sharp upwards momentum in the next few days. Now, you could make an argument that the trend is somewhat slow in here. Depending on what happens on Monday, this may obviously stop the trend. We may begin to move up slightly, or we could see this one fall significantly lower. Now, this is what I'm going to say, guys. I'm not here to make your minds up, right? I'm here to share my thoughts and opinions, and I want to give you the perspective on both ends of the scale, both up and down. If we move up, we're initially looking to break above 610, we're looking to break then above levels something like 620, and beyond that we could be looking to break above 630, 640, right? Maybe even 650 from there. If we are not able to hold these levels, I think there's every possibility that we go lower. That could be to the 580 range, it could be to the 540 range, 550 range even, right? If we don't hold these levels, I personally think that's where we are going, but that's just my thoughts on it at the moment. So, it very much depends, right? What should you do? What will you do? Well, if it was me, I'd say it very much depends. If I was short-term bullish on NEO, if I thought this trend was going to turn around, this could be a very interesting opportunity, right? This could potentially be a bottom. But if you think that there's a potential that we're going to see this support break and we drop lower, then obviously this would not be the best time to buy at all. Again, also remember, when you zoom out, this stock is up big. So the main goal for the upcoming week is simply to establish a support, right? I don't want to see this one necessarily go massively up or massively down. Simple support would be a very good sign at this moment. But that's just my personal thoughts on it. You may agree, you may not. I just wanted to share my opinions. Thank you for your time, and I hope I'll see you again soon. Goodbye.